They keep on. Welcome to Munciana Courtside, Season 7, Show 11, almost through this COVID-riddled year. Down the home stretch we come. Rando, get us going, babes.
Yep. We're going to kind of highlight and talk about all the kind of the regionals that's going on, since we don't got as much to talk about next week as semi-states get rolling here. We're going to talk about last week in the 1A. We had Lagodi sweeps Trinity Lutheran, a little shock there in the world.
Trinity Lutheran, new guy in the block the last couple of years, been really steady. Lagodi is a lifetime team, man. Those guys have been good forever, them and Hauser in that area. And Hauser and Lagodi are going to see each other, too.
Yeah.
So Lagodi, that's a legacy program. That's a little bit of a shocker. But, if you told me that Lagodi and Hauser were going to be in the finals, to go to the Final Four, I wouldn't have even shrugged. Those two teams, great teams. Lagodi, great win. Trinity Lutheran, tough finish to a really good season. Really good year, and I know they desperately wanted to get back, but they'll be back in on.
Yep. Speaking of you
as a 2A team.
Yeah. Hauser, you just talked about. We talked about them having the possibility of making a run. Had to beat two ranked teams, number 9 Lutheran, and then number 10 Bloomfield. Took them both down on the way.
Yeah, I'm not shocked. I go back to the same thing. Winners win. Kids that have had a history of winning, kids that have come through programs. Culture is really a beautiful thing. And culture forces you to do things that you sometimes don't believe you're capable of doing. Hauser has a great culture.
Yeah. Great
coaching, great history, and a great team.
Yeah.
All of those teams, Bloomfield and the whole gang, very, very good. But Hauser just a little better when they needed to be better. And a lot of that is about winners win.
Yeah.
That's what they do. And Hauser moves on, and I'm excited about it.
Yep. Talking about the 1A North, we had Cowan swept through both of their regional opponents. Last one was Seton Catholic in the final. We thought that was going to be that big Blue River match. COVID hit them last week. We talked about that. Cowan moves on.
I think Cowan would have beat Blue River regardless.
Well, actually, they won at 4. Sorry, my fault. 4.
Yeah, I think that
got ahead of the game.
I think Cowan would have beat Blue River regardless. I think that Cowan's the best team in that part of the state. We talked early in the season that we had Cowan coming all the way through, and the only guy that didn't get to the party that we thought would was Trinity Lutheran. I really thought that Cowan and Pioneer would see each other, and we talked about the Melissa Paul Gardner Rod Nye showdown, and we're going to get it.
Yep, and you just get hitting on it. Pioneer gets through 5-5 over Lake Park to start the day. 15-12. I heard they were down, battled back out in that, and stole that one from those guys, and then swept the final, which was number 6 team.
Well, Rod Nyes has one of the things, and I'm a big fan. He's done a good job. He's been there forever. He's kind of one of those Bart Powell type guys that's been in the game for what seems like forever.
Yeah.
And much like Bart Powell, his greatest asset is his competitive nature. And Rod Nyes is a great competitor. And so as the Gardner family starts to prepare for Pioneer, one of the things that you have to be able to prepare for is their heart. One of the things you don't see on video a whole lot is heart.
Yeah.
And Rod Nyes is truly one of the great competitors in the game. And so Cal and Pioneer is going to be a great battle just because of him.
Yeah.
And he's got kids that can go. He's got athletes. But that sets up a really good, and we're going to talk about it in a little bit, a really good 1A battle. All 4 of those teams are really solid teams. They're all history teams. Yeah. Cowan's has a history. Pioneer has a history. I'm excited for 1A.
Yep. Talking about 2A, the top 2 we thought would come out of the South, Bar Reeve, Heritage Christian, both rolled through their regionals on the semi-state battle.
No shocker. I mean, Bar Reeve, once again, the legacy program. We say the same teams every year. It's really
number 1,
amazing.
Number 2.
Yeah, it's really amazing. It's like college volleyball. There's about 5 teams that always have a chance to win it, and everybody else is just playing to get in the tournament. Bar Reeve is always going to be in this spot. They've always been in it. They're always going to be. Heritage Christian's the best team in 2A. I'll say it right now. The best team in 2A. They did get to go through. They got a little bit of a break because their regional foe had a little bit of COVID. But I don't think it would have mattered. It would have made it a little tougher game. But at the end of the day, Heritage Christian's the most offensive team, the most seasoned team, and maybe the best set team rolling through. Snyder and Bowden, I believe, are the best 2 setters in 2A right now, and people can debate that. I think those 2 have the most experience. Both were on the big stage last year, but Heritage Christian, I think, best team in 2A.
To the north, we got Fairfield upsets Andrean. We talked about looking for the upsets.
Yeah.
Fairfield has that history. I had a confidence in Andrean. They fall, and then Wapahani took care of theirs.
Well, I think that the first one, Fairfield taking down Andrean, their record's a little deceiving. They have, double-digit losses on the season. And I think the reason is they played a bigger schedule. They play tough teams. They are the only team in this thing that was as athletic as Andrean.
Yep.
They're very gifted athletes, bigger, stronger kids, multi-sportish kids. That's their go-to. They're a net team. On the other end of it, Wapahani is a back 20 team.
Yep.
Wapahani's going to try to drag the game on as long as they can, let you make mistakes. It's it's about what they don't do in that program, and not an extremely offensive team. Lost, we talked about last week, their big firepower and Mallory Summers. But they're winning because that's what they do. You're talking about a team that has 5 state championships in this run.
Yeah.
Since 2010, they have 4 state championships. And not a whole lot of schools can say that.
No.
They're more historical than almost everybody in this tournament.
Correct.
They've won as many state championships as anybody in the tournament. They've as many state championship appearances in the last 8 years. Keep in mind, we were in 12 and 13. We won the state. Then Jared Richardson follows it up and wins it twice. And now they've been last year. This is their 6th appearance in the state championship, possibly, since 2012. No one that's down the list from them has that kind of. I'm looking at this.
No.
Providence, maybe, but that's it. Yorktown's had great runs, but not like that.
Yeah.
Wapahani, they know how to win. They get through. I don't know if they have the firepower to move all the way through, though. It'll be interesting.
Sure. Talking about 3A, talking about the South. Interesting one right there off the get-go. Silver Creek, still rolling. They took care of business, and then also Rebuff took care of business to get to the 3A.
Silver Creek. A couple of years ago, I stepped up. I loved Silver Creek. I made a comment that I believe they were going to get swept in this game a couple of years ago. I did make the promise after
it was against Northfield.
Yeah,
or Northview.
Yeah, and I got hammered in the city's newspaper, and they got swept. But I did make the call that we would do the show at their place that next show at their cafe, and it didn't happen. And I really would have liked to have gone. Zimmerman is a good coach. He's one of the really, really talented coaches in the state. This Silver Creek team is really good.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to hear any comments from me about sweeps or anything else. Silver Creek has a chance to get all the way home and get to the state championship. Brebeuf is very athletic and very well coached. Brebeuf early in the season, I don't think people saw this.
Yep.
I think that they were really up and down. They were trying to figure some things out. But Brebeuf may be the most balanced team in 3A.
Yep.
They just got a lot of kids that can play, and there's not one guy in particular that has to carry a huge load. They're by far the most balanced team. I think that who wins that game is who gets their confidence settled fastest.
Sure. Talk about the North. We talked about Dwenger. Had to go through Belmont, the number 1 team heading into the tournament. I know there's polls and everything else gets changed.
Yeah.
But Dwenger handles Belmont in 3 to win their regional, and the New Prairie was the other ranked team, number 6. And they got through. They'll do a battle this weekend.
Well, New Prairie is a solid team. They're a team that year in and year out you're gonna have to deal with their offensive play at the net. Uh, Dwenger and Belmont, I thought all year long Dwenger was the number one 3A team. I said that we had them in our top 4 or 5 in the state, 4A included. The Hudson sisters, to get through Dwenger, to get past Dwenger, you're gonna have to get through those two cats, and that's gonna be a tough go. Both of them can play. Belmont is a very athletic team, always very athletic, and Craig Kroll, as we've referenced on multiple occasions, gets his team as jacked to play as anybody in the state. Dwenger rolling in there and smacking him in 3 should wake up a lot of folks. Yeah, I'll be honest, if I'm New Prairie, don't sleep on Dwenger. Because Dwenger, I believe, right now is the best 3A team left in the tournament. Can they lose? Yeah, everybody can lose. Yeah. But I'd be surprised if they did.
Yeah, and talking with Hauser afterwards, I was talking to him about it. I think he's learned from his mistakes in the past, one game at a time. He's happy. He said they got a lot of out of Bebo. She had 15 kills for him, one of the other seniors. Mm-hmm. A lot of good kids. And decent ball control too. So.
No, they're solid.
Go ahead and talk about 4A. We're going to talk about the South first. It's kind of weird to say Yorktown's in the South.
Yeah.
But they are. They took down Brownsburg in 4.
Yorktown is indeed south of our building where we're sitting right now, and so I don't have a problem with that. Providence, I'll start with.
Yeah.
No shock. I thought all year long that Horning's been trying to kind of get back to 100%, and she may well be at this point. I said early on when everybody was beating Providence and most people were singing their demise. Best fans, and I now know that the IHSAA is opening things up a little, and 500 fans, I believe, is what they're letting in, and that'll get all the fathers in from Providence, and that's all they need. Greatest fan base in volleyball. Providence is always dangerous because they're always good, and they have, in my mind, maybe one of the best coaches to ever coach in the state. And so you look at it. This team is going to be a tough out, and the only team that I think has got the potential to do so with these guys and deal with how they play the game is who they got to play against, Yorktown. Yorktown getting through Brownsburg in 4. Brownsburg, we said all year long, was a dangerous team. Yorktown, though, really on a roll, and I think that may be the best team left in this.
Yep. I got to talk about the North 4A, and we are going to get into Munster. We talked about that being the death regional.
And it was, for the first time this year, one of those cats had to deal. I think LaPorte had to deal with COVID.
Yeah.
We've been bragging. That's on us. We jinxed you.
Munster swept.
Munster sweeps LaPorte, missing 3 starters, I believe. Munster beats Crown Point in 5, and I think Crown Point was missing a big middle, not because of COVID. I think there was other issues. But Munster, all year long we said was capable of winning this thing. You had Crown Point winning it. But no, this Munster team is big and physical. They've played they're played McCutcheon earlier in the season, and in fact may have been one of the only teams to slow down Chloe Chacoin. Yeah. And so they're built for this. We've talked all year long that whoever came out of that gauntlet in the North was going to be tough, and Munster makes it through. Congratulations. Best year, I think, in a long, long time for the North. I loved everything they were doing. So the high school coaches up there, the club coaches up there, kudos to you guys. Whatever you're doing is working. Congrats to all those teams that fell just short, and congrats to Munster for making it through.
Yeah. I'm going to get into the other North game. HSC falls to the old McCutcheon squad, the Fighting Chacones.
I said all year long that I thought the biggest thing that COVID had robbed people of was being game ready. One of the only teams, other than those guys in the North, that I thought was game ready. McCutcheon seemingly got to play all of their battles, and they lost several early on. And I kept saying a year away, and that they needed a signature win. Go back and look at the replays. needed a signature win. Well, they got their signature win with HSE. That's a huge win. I'm not going to call it a massive upset because at this stage of the game, everybody's good.
Correct.
What I am going to say is McCutcheon was so battle ready because they had played all of those tough matches early on that this isn't a surprise to me. Chloe Chacoin is probably the best player in the state of Indiana. Right now, I don't know if there's a better player in the state. I don't know if there's a better player in this part of the country. I'm talking a lot, and Allie Shondell's on that team, so I talked to Johnny Shondell, and Johnny Shondell sure sings her praise. And he said that she may be the best high school volleyball player he has ever seen. And that's a family that, Johnny Shondell popped out of the womb watching high school volleyball. And so I'm telling you, Chacoin, no one single-handedly beats people, but, several years ago on one of my first games as a high school coach, I got beat by a Union County team. And I was absolutely devastated. This Union County team they beat us in 5, and just I was upset, and I got on my team afterwards, and I told them there's no way that one kid can beat a whole team. There's no way. The little girl's name was Lynette Moster, and she went on to be a 3-time All-American and play for the United States national team. So, to my Wapahani team in the early 1990s or late 1990s, I apologize. To the Mavericks, Chacoin is not a one-person team, but she is a one-man wrecking crew, and she is capable of beating anybody. I will tell you right now, if you're Munster, you got to be scared because that cat took about 160 swings on Saturday and was still bringing heat.
Hitting like 600.
Yeah, this Saturday, 166 swings, 8 errors. 8 errors. Hits almost 500 for the weekend. That is ungodly. 166 swings, unbelievable. And so she's not going to have to take 166 swings on Saturday. And that's going to be a fresh cannon for those guys to deal with. That kid can let it all hang out. If I'm buying one ticket, it's probably Munster Mavericks. I'm going up to, they moved it to Lafayette. Jeff, I think I'm going to check that match out. HSE, it sucks. It sucks. On top of the poll all year long, best team in the state. But at this stage of the game, you got to be the best team on that day. You play one day at a time, and you got to be the best team at that time of the day. And like I've said before, in my high school days, I just considered the whole season scrimmages. And all I told my teams always was you have to win your last game. And you know what happened early in the season doesn't really matter. All that matters is that last game. And for HSE, a tough finish, but that team is loaded. They've got some kids that can flat out play. They'll be back, and they'll be back with a chip on their shoulder, and I like those type of teams. So kudos to HSE, kudos to Crown Point, McCutcheon, and the Munster. Move on.
Yep. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get into the games of the week.
Wap Fairfield.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Huntington North.
Yeah.
Huntington North, we're going to talk about each location. Huntington North will be the first one. They're going to host 2A North and 3A North.
Yeah.
2A North is 27-5. Wapahani doing battle with Fairfield, which is 20-14 at 4 p.m.
14 is deceiving. 14 is deceiving. I think the first year.
You never know what's all.
Yeah, the first
COVID,
year.
Everything else.
That and the fact they played a tough schedule.
Yep.
They played a tougher schedule than Wapahani has. Wapahani's schedule, by virtue of Delaware County not being as strong as it's traditionally been, their schedule is a little weaker. It is what it is. So don't get caught up. If you're a Wapahani fan, don't get caught up in 14 losses. The year that Delaware County won all 4 state championships, people were blowing up Wapahani because he had lost 6 games. And I think Michigan City Marquette had only lost 1. And everybody's beating us up. Well, those losses came to Burris and Central and Delta in that year. And all 3 of those teams won state championships as well. And if I remember, that team with the tougher schedule, Wapahani, destroyed Marquette in 3. I'm not saying Wapahani and Fairfield is going to go in 3. I'm worried about Wapahani's firepower. Chloe Cook, Cameron Weiss have got to be great to get home in the Fairfield game.
Is Wapahani got changed?
Yeah, Marv on the WHS network chiming in saying Logansport is the new location.
It
is Logansport. Changed this afternoon. I got that update from my sons. That is,
okay.
it is.
Okay.
Logansport.
And they're not the only one that's been changed. We'll get to the other one here in a second. So at Logansport, then the 3A, the second match will be Dwenger 31-2 versus New Prairie, which is 25-7 at 6 p.m. Following that.
Same thing I just talked about. I think Dwenger's played a much tougher schedule, a little more battle ready. They went through some wars with some people. They went through an absolute classic with Newcastle early in the season. They replicate that kind of play. New Prairie doesn't have the same offense that Newcastle has. New Prairie doesn't have the same kind of offense that McCutcheon has. Dwenger's played both those teams. Mm-hmm. I think that Dwenger's the best team left in 3A, as I said earlier. I think that what New Prairie is going to have to do, they're going to have to find a way to slow down, not stop, slow down the Hudsons. And it can be done. I think there's going to be some things done with serving. There's got to be some things done to really bang on those guys. But once again, much like Chacoin, Ava Hudson has only got to play one match. One match. And that means you're going to get the best version of her. And I just don't know. I think that Dwenger is probably the best team in that. They're the best team in Logansport that day.
Yeah. We're going to talk about the Frankfurt sectional, but it was actually moved to Lafayette, Jeff. But that was earlier in the week.
Gotta love the vid.
Just wanted to knock that out in case anybody's watching that didn't know.
Gotta love the vid.
Yes. 1A North and 4A North will be at that one. The 1A North will be the 25-4 Cowan versus the 28-3 Pioneer at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, we discussed this. Gracie Conway if Gracie Conway comes ready to play, and she's going to have to carry a load, and she has all season long. She's the best player at Cowan. Gracie Conway comes loaded and ready to go. I think Cowan moves on. If Gracie Conway sputters out of the gate, Pioneer's athleticism may jump them. I think it's going to be a great game. I think that both of those teams, I thought were going to be here. That part of the bracket, I'm 100% sure I thought was going to happen.
Yep.
Cowan up and down throughout the season. I think this comes down to serve, pass, and Gracie Conway. And we'll talk about favorites in a minute.
Yep. 4A North, we got McCutcheon 22-7. It's good to see them get over that 20 mark. It took them forever to get even like 2 matches in.
Yeah.
And then they're taking on Munster, which played every single match possible, 32-2.
Yeah.
And that'll be the 4 o'clock start.
McCutcheon, we talked a little about Chacoin. We've talked, one of the things I said a year away. Well, we're already playing into the next year. Allie Shondell is closer now to being a sophomore than a freshman. These kids, that McCutcheon team, had great experience in the offseason. I was talking a little to Jason Young about that. This McCutcheon group, these kids have played in championships. Chacoin's played in three USA championships in the club level.
Yep.
3 or 4 of those McCutcheon kids, including Allie Shondell, were on a national championship team last year in AAUs. They went. They went to AAUs. And the reason they went to AAUs was to continue to get the experiences needed to handle games like they did against HSE. Playing in title matches is huge. Kids that bite off a little bit more and put themselves out of their comfort zone. If you want to change who you are, you got to change what you do.
Yep.
And these guys, they played in title matches.
Yep.
They've got more title matches under their belt with anybody other than Yorktown in 4A. Yep. And so if McCutcheon rolls in and takes down Munster, I'm not shocked. Munster's more physical. Munster's more seasoned. I said Munster, I thought somebody out of the north would be in this final. I thought McCutcheon was a year away. They may have accelerated that year with that HSE game. That's going to be a war. Out of all the matches, that's the match I would like to go see.
Yep. Let's go ahead and hit questions since we don't have multiple questions tonight. We'll come back at the last 2. Any questions, Big John?
A question coming from me. What's your advice to guys that maybe have never been there before? How do they not play too high, not play too low, keep those emotions in check, and not kind of just give it away in that aspect?
Take a deep breath, wiggle your toes. As my dad always told me, take a deep breath, just so that you're in the moment. Wiggle your toes so you know you're here. And then rely on fundamentals. What you come into the gym with on Saturday is what you are. You're not going to develop some cape-like skills or some supernatural skills. There are no superheroes. You just come in and do what you do to the best of your training. And the guys that have been trained at the highest possible level, you ultimately play to the lowest level of your training. If your level of training is higher than everybody else's, you're good to go. But understand the time to study is before the test. And so do all your prep work this week. Focus on the scouting report. Focus on polishing your skills. And when you walk in, take a deep breath and look around because it's a beautiful opportunity. Wiggle your toes so you know that we're here and ready to go. And then rest and rely on your fundamentals to get you home.
Yep. I think a couple things I would think of, like you just kind of hit on, the main thing I think of is make sure you're ready to go. Make sure you've done the work that you need to get yourself ready for the opportunity because who knows what's going to step on the other side of the net. Something could happen. You never know. So you got to make sure. And the second thing I always tell people, go through your daily routine. If you serve and pass before, make sure you serve and pass before. Don't go out and have this big dinner the night before. Do your thing. Make it as normal as possible.
I agree with
I think sometimes we get caught up in everything else. Regional dinners,
you
semi-state dinners.
You look young setter.
Yeah.
McCutcheon, Alice Shondell, freshman. Who cares? That's what people ask about. Freshman setter, is that going to be a big deal? Well, that freshman setter played in the national championship 5 months ago. We had a freshman setter at Wapahani, Kylie, my daughter, and 4 months before that, she was playing in the national championship. It's national championship, state championship. I mean, these kids playing on the biggest stage.
Yeah.
I just think that you're right. You just got to settle in and do what you do.
Any other ones?
That's it.
All right. Back to the Jennings County, supposedly Jennings County. If we see anybody, something's changed, let us know. Never know with everything. But Jennings County.
Probably being
actually, to be honest with you, the Jennings County is the new location. Last week they were supposed to have it Columbus East, but they changed it. Well,
of course it is. Of course it is. That's
so Jennings County is hosting the 3A South and 4A South. 3A South will be Silver Creek 27-8 versus Brebeuf 22-11 at 4 p.m.
Silver Creek Brebeuf I think will be the best 3A match. In my mind, I think it'll be the best. Silver Creek has been on the doorstep for a couple years, and I know they're eager to get over it. Jeff Zimmerman, as I referenced earlier, the battle between Jeff and Cat. Older coach, younger coach, totally different styles, both great coaches. It's going to be intriguing to watch. Brebeuf, very sleek and, like I said, very balanced. The winner of this game is whoever gets their nerves settled fastest and whoever wins the first ball contact war. There isn't a Hudson or a Chicoine that's involved in this match. And so whoever wins the first ball contact, serve pass.
Right, South, we got Providence. Providence versus Yorktown. This is my favorite matchup. And the reason why I love it
Isford?
Is yes, this is the best time. We've watched these guys in the state finals. We've watched these guys across the board in semi-states.
Yeah.
Here we are, Providence 23-6 versus Yorktown 26-0.
You take away the old school, the Connie Garretts, the Gail Grives, the Gene Kestersons, the Steve Shondells, and if you were doing a new Mount Rushmore of the next generation of great coaches, Parika and Bloom would be up there.
Yep.
And these are two of the best coaches, if not the two best coaches left in the tournament. That will be a fun game. I get to do the TV for that state championship, so one of those two is going to be there, and I enjoy that because I love watching how those guys coach. Providence is going to have to be really clean to get past Yorktown. This is hard to believe. Yorktown 26-0, undefeated, and as quiet an undefeated record as there will ever be. Partly because of COVID, but partly because of how that team is. That's a very quiet team. That team is built on 6 DSs, basically. And the likes of this team, defensively, these guys are as good as it gets. Firepower has always been my issue with these guys. Where are they going to generate the offense? This is an offense led by a 5'3" to 5'4", jumping jack. She's just a bean, and she bounces around, but all she's doing is scoring about a 400 rate. And Yorktown is going to do what Yorktown does, take care of the ball, not get too rattled, play solid, and wait for you to make mistakes. If Providence makes those mistakes, they go home in 3. If Providence does not, we've got a 5-game affair, and it should be interesting.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy to think Yorktown was almost laying out in the tall grass. Everybody was talking about HSC and this amazing offense.
Yeah, I think she enjoys that. I think
Yeah.
Steph Bloom enjoys the pressure being on somebody else for once. But like I said, quietly 26-0. That's a phenomenal year.
Yep. The other one out of the South, we're going to talk about Jasper. They got the 1A South and the 2A South. 1A South is Lagodi 30-5 versus Hauser at 22-11. That'll be a 1 p.m. start.
You know, we talked about it. Two legacy programs, 2 teams that, you know, every year are in the hunt. Hauser played a tougher schedule this year than most people realize, and they bit off some games that a lot of people didn't see coming. You know, Lagodi is probably your favorite going into that, but I think that from a 1A standpoint, that's the match that a lot of people are going to be looking at, because you know, everybody's always seeing Cowan, and they're used to Cowan being in the finals. I said earlier, I like that Cowan Pioneer match just because of the differences in the coaches and the energy. Lagodi Hauser, I think, should be a really entertaining match. That would be my upset special. I would not be shocked to see Hauser pull that off, and you know, I think that'll be a great match.
Yep. 2A South, Bar Reeve 33-3. You want to get Heritage Christian, which is 30-3. 3-30.
2 ungodly.
A lot of threes in that one.
2 ungodly records. 2 great programs. Heritage Christian, a little more of an upstart in the last 4 or 5 years, even though Michelle York really built a program that was on the doorstep forever. They knocked it down last year, finally got through. And yeah, I think that Bar Reeve's going to have a magnificent performance to get past them. I've said all year long that Heritage Christian is my 2A favorite, and I haven't changed on that.
Yep.
You know, and they got a matchup nightmare in the middle, a matchup nightmare in the pin, and they've got a very gifted setter dishing the butter. And I don't know. Right now, Heritage Christian's the team to beat. Bar Reeve's going to have to play out of their minds to get home.
Yep. Going to go ahead and get in the next part. Who's heading? All right, so we're going to talk about state finals. If you want to throw out, I don't know if you're allowed to. You can do it this week, right? You can't down the road?
Yeah.
1A picks. You want to get started? You want me to get started?
No, I can tell you what I like Cowan getting by Pioneer. I think it's going to be a war. It could go either way. I like Cowan just because of experience being there last year. I'd love to see Pioneer get there just for for Rod, because I know he's waited forever. But I think Cowan probably a little too much experience. And if Conway plays well, I think that's a deal. If Conway doesn't, then I'm wrong. I like Hauser. I like Hauser in the upset special. I like Cowan and Hauser. It could go either way. 1A is so open, but I like those teams.
You know, I would love to see Cowan and Hauser, just because Hauser's made this little run late, took down some people that they didn't expect to take. People didn't expect them to take it down, but they did. But I like Lagodi, and the only reason is because they are riding high after that. They got beat in straights against Trinity Lutheran, and then just came out.
No, I don't. I just Hauser is kind of my sentimental pick.
I like
it. But Lagodi, any one of those 4 teams goes.
Correct.
I don't think it matters. And out of those 4 teams, any one of them could win the state. It's really bizarre. 1A is wide open.
2A, interesting.
I'm going to follow my heart. I'm a very loyal person to the end, and so I'm going to take Wapahani.
So am I.
I really am afraid of their firepower or lack thereof. Macy Bowden is a very gifted setter. Baker is a very gifted defender. Cook and Wise have got to be very, very good, and they have the potential to be very, very good. And they're going to have to both be very good to get past an extremely athletic Fairfield team. I take Wapahani because they're used to winning and they've been there. They get it. 2A, I've got Heritage Christian. I think Heritage Christian hands down is the best team in 2A. But as we talked about with HSE, they got to be hands down the best team on Saturday. And then they got to rinse, ring, and repeat the following Saturday. The problem this time of year is you can't see Worthen. You can't be looking at Worthen or thinking about Worthen until you get home that day. For these guys, Heritage Christian's got to be thinking nothing but Jasper. No thought process at all about Worthen. And I think if they do that, they get past Bar Reeve.
Yep. I agree with Wapahani. I think they just have been there to the dance too often. Not that Fairfield hasn't. Fairfield played Burris 37 straight years.
Yeah.
But I'm going a little upset special. I'm going Bar Reeve out of the South. Even though they're the number 1 team in 2A. Not that I don't think Heritage Christian can do it. I could see either team making it.
That's all
But
right.
I'm going with Bar Reeve as my upset special.
Wow.
3A. Do we need to talk about the North?
Well, when you talk like that, yeah, you definitely do. We, that was the problem. Everybody thought HSE was a done deal. And so, yeah, you got to. New Prairie's there for a reason. They beat some people to get there, and they're a very good team. I just think the Hudsons are too much to get past. Hudson is one of the 5 best players left in this tournament, all divisions. And there's a reason she's already committed and going to Notre Dame. Her sister gets better on a daily basis. Coaching-wise, no one is more battle-tested that hasn't been to the state championship than Dwinger.
Yep.
Dwinger has gone through wars the last 3 years, and it hasn't worked out well for him. Now I think they're in the catbird seat. I got Dwinger, and I got Dwinger, and I don't. The others, you pick them. I can't go either way. I like both of those teams. Like I said, Dwinger versus whoever handles the first ball contact.
I think Dwenger wins. The South, rebuff.
Okay.
I know Silver Creek fans will be fired up at that point.
I got some experienced kids. I know from a club standpoint that Rebuff team has, a lot of kids that play a lot of local club in India. A lot of them are on our club. So maybe a little more experience than Rebuff team. But Silver Creek also has a great heart and great coach.
Yep. 4A.
Woo.
I'm going McCutcheon.
I'm going McCutcheon too.
Yeah.
I'm going McCutcheon too. They're riding the wave. At this time of year, I don't vote against the best player.
No.
And I think the 2 best players left, Hornick's really good. And Munster's got 3 kids, I believe, going D1. I believe the best 2 kids left in the tournament in 4A are Chacoin and Stinson. And they're the same individual, just about 5 or 6 inches difference between the 2.
Uh-huh.
They both have big motors. They both have big guns. They're both brilliant. They're both they're game wreckers in the sense that you better plan for them. If you don't, they will beat you. And if you do, you may spend too much time because you look at Yorktown, their kids can play. Aikens can play. Dunsmore can play. Judge can play.
Backcourt.
Same thing. We're talking about McCutcheon. There's multiple kids that can hurt you there. But I will tell you right now, I like Yorktown and McCutcheon to be in the finals in Worthen.
Yeah. I would have my prediction if you'd asked me last week was going to be Crown Point and Yorktown, and I think that was going to be my upset special. I was going to call that at the HSC just to fire up Jason at that point. I was going to call for the Crown Point win.
There's no need to continue to put it there. I think McCutcheon. There's so much fuel that you gain. Like I said, that team needed a signature win. You beat HSC, you got to believe you can beat anybody left in this tournament. And, HSC, arguably the best team in the state. McCutcheon takes them down. And McCutcheon played 2 5-set matches that day. These guys have got to feel like
money's worth.
These guys got to feel like they can run through fire with kerosene suits on and not get burned. Yeah. These guys, their mindset's in the right place. Hopefully everything stays good COVID-wise, but I think if it, my thought process right now is McCutcheon and Yorktown.
Yep, I agree on that one. Any questions, Big Josh?
No questions. Keep it rolling, dude.
All right. Going to go ahead and get into the next part and talk about our players to watch.
Well, we've talked about some of these kids.
And these are guys that are going to be in matches that we're going to see.
Yeah. And one of the things that you've done a remarkable job this year is getting a lot of kids publicity. We'll start off with Gracie Conway. I talked about her, and she's such a huge part of what Callan does. If Gracie Conway is really good this week, I think they get by Pioneer. If Gracie Conway weathers from carrying a heavy load all season long, maybe not. Gracie Conway, I noted this summer, has a heavy arm, a gifted competitor. Multi-talented kid. She can defend, she can pass, she can serve, she can hit, she can block. She's a 5 skill kid, and Conway is arguably one of the best players in 1A. And I think that she's worth watching. Senior, been there, won last year.
Yep.
So.
Yep. 493 kills in the season, closing in on 500. 63 aces, 21 blocks, 192 digs, hitting 323. You always talk about that 300 mark.
Yeah.
Crazy 1,100 swings on the year. Her and Shacoine's at about 1,200.
Shacoine had 1,100 swings last week.
So, pretty amazing, though.
Next is Anna Belangi.
Yep.
Another senior. Both those kids are seniors, and seniors don't want to go down quietly, especially seniors in this COVID year.
Yeah.
This has been such a trial and tribulation for these poor kids. These guys are making the party last as long as they can, and Belangi's a Bar Reeve kid. And one of the reasons you picked Bar Reeve over Heritage, I'm sure. Very gifted kid, big bomber. It could offset Colvin and some of the things they do, if she gets hot. Much like Conway, if Bar Reeve is to move forward, Belangi's got to be really good.
Yep.
If Cowan's going to go move forward, Conway's got to be really good.
Yep. 460 kills, 258 digs, 15 blocks, 29 aces, 5 assists on the year. Number 3.
Anaya Gaddis, Burbuff setter, young, and everybody I've talked to has said how much she's improved. I mean, you're talking about a team where Delaney Seaman is ended up as the right side on that team. Delaney Seaman is a gifted. Both of her sisters are collegiate setters.
Yeah.
D1. Seaman is really, really good. Gaddis has really turned up the heat in this thing. They have really settled at the setter spot and the bro spot. And, we talk about contacts, first ball contacts. Their first 2 contacts have really improved immensely. And that's one of the reasons Burbuff is in the hunt. One of the reasons I'm sure you picked him to go all the way to Worthing.
Yep. 1,030 assists on the year, just got over that 1,000 mark. 28 aces, 256 digs, and 76 kills on the year.
And then lastly, we've given Shacoine an awful lot of love.
That's why I wanted to go with somebody else on that.
And I think that she's, like I said, arguably the best player in the state of Indiana, and got more years left in her. Reagan Burns. Somebody's got to get the ball to Shondell. Allie Shondell is going to be a professor. Johnny Shondell, her father, was maybe one of the smartest, most competitive setters I'd ever seen, but very crafty and very intelligent, is grown into that same coach.
Yeah.
Having a coach in your house is difficult. My daughter would tell you that. But this kid really studies the game. She enjoys studying the game, and she enjoys getting better. But somebody's got to get her the ball. Mm-hmm. And Reagan Burns has quietly put together huge numbers for this team. Just a sophomore. And one of those kids, he's battle tested, and she's closer to being a junior now than a sophomore, and she's going to be one of the ones to watch as we move forward, as one of the better back row kids in the state. So Reagan Burns is my other watch list guy tonight.
Yeah, 417 digs on the year, 55 aces. Keep in mind 417 digs, and they missed the first 3 weeks of season.
Yeah.
And then what I really liked, 53 digs this past weekend over those 2 regional games.
Yeah, I mean, and somebody's got to put the ball up. We talk when there's big guns and stars. It's one contact. Yeah. And somebody's got to get the ball to Shondell to dish out, and Burns is critical. Burns has a great weekend. Those guys get through Munster and move on, because you got to imagine that Shacoine will. You got to imagine that Shondell's ready. You got to imagine that the rest of that team is ready to perform their role. Burns is a kid that's got a little bit of pressure on him.
Yeah. Well, that's all we got for this week. Make sure you get out if you can get out. Limited seats. You make sure you get your tickets online quickly.
Yeah, and like I said, I look forward to seeing what we're talking about next week. But, at the start of the season, I don't know if anybody ever imagined we would be here. And so,
it was questionable.
By the grace of God, we're here, and I thank God every day that we're moving forward, and I hope this weekend holds no surprises, and it comes down to just pure volleyball. Until next week, be good sports fans.